Hey everyone, in lesson 2 we're just going to go over the Swift language itself. So no GUI work this week. We're not going to be creating an app or anything. So in this video I just want to show you just a couple of the resources or one of the resources I guess, and just create a quick playground so that you can see how to do that and enter the code. So this is the a Swift tour. This is the link that I gave you in the resources. There are some more in-depth items here, the language guide and language reference. If you want to go through the language guide, it's a much more in-depth tutorial. I just didn't know with 1 week how far we could get. And the Swift tour is a very quick introduction to the language, and I think it gives most of what we need to get started with the coding. If we do get into a scenario where there are some library calls that we're not familiar with or whatnot, well, we can talk about those as we go through the class. In this Swift tour, I just want to point out there is a little menu at the top. I didn't catch it till I was a little ways down the page, but this little drop-down menu has an outline of everything that's on the page. Swift is a really easy language. I think it almost falls somewhere between JavaScript and Python, or C# and Python. It has some more modern additions to the language. And let's jump over to Xcode, and I'm going to create. I'm going to select File New. I don't know if you can see at the top there. And this time, instead of doing a project, we're going to use a. Actually, let me close the current project. So I'm going to select File New, and this time, instead of selecting a project, I'm going to select Playground. And you can just use a blank playground. And this is almost like creating a console application. So this is what we're given when we create the playground. You can see there's not a giant list of files created or anything. It's simply a editor window, and if you don't see a screen at the bottom, you can click on this button here to expand it, or you can go to View, Debug Area, Active Console. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to input code here, and then anything that we print will be printed to this debug area. You can run it with the play button here or right here as well. So I'm going to click play. Notice that it turns into a square, which is for stopping the code when you're done. So really this week, all that I want you to do is go through this tutorial and use the book as well. It's very similar content in the book to the Swift tour. And I want you to read about the language and spend some time taking the code here and putting it into Xcode and trying it out. So I mean, here you can see we talk about creating a variable. You can create variables with explicit typing, or more like a JavaScript style where the variable takes on the type based on the value that you assign to it. So here's 2 examples where we do not explicitly give a type. We can use the keyword var if we want to change the variable later on, and let if we want to make it immutable. So if we want it to be a value that we never change, we never assign a new value to it later on in our code, you can use the keyword let. And just run through the code. You can print out values. Here's another example where we have an explicit typing. So you can see we say let the variable name, and it's followed by this colon double. It reminds me almost of Pascal syntax. The colon double takes this type as an explicit type for the variable explicit double. So now we can't assign a value that's not of type double. You have to be careful with implicit typing because you can see in this example, if we assign a 70.0, it's going to make this implicitly typed variable a double, and a 70 makes this an implicitly typed integer. And then if we try to do some calculations using those two variables, we're going to run into trouble. So I guess, in my opinion, explicit typing is better in the end. We kind of have an understanding of what we're doing beforehand. I just want to also point out something. I'm not going to run through the whole tutorial here, but these are really nice exercises. So here they give you a really brief code example, and then they give you a little thing to try out on your own. Sometimes that's hard for me to come up with, like, what do I want to do to change this code? I need to come up with my own story, my own project idea. So I love these little um, experiments, they call them, where you can now plug this code in, and then it says, well, now create a constant with an explicit type of float and a value of 4, and I can come in here. I know it's a constant, so I'm going to use let instead of var, and I'm going to set it to an explicit float, and I'm going to make its type float, and the value is 4. So they give you these little experiments where you can try out some code. Notice there's no semicolons at the end of the statements. So go ahead and run through this. I might post a couple more videos throughout the week, especially if you guys are asking a lot of questions. I was thinking about putting one together just for classes and objects. But other than that, I think the tutorial is really easy to follow. Hopefully you guys can lean on your experience coding in other languages, and most of this code will look familiar to you. But if you do run into questions, please let me know right away by email. Email is definitely the preferred way to contact me right now, so I'm not in my office by my phone. And let me know early so that I can help out throughout the week. Thanks.